Greetings to you today on this 11th day of Lent. It is Monday, the 26th of February today, and hope you had a blessed day yesterday for sure. Our readings are from two places today. One is 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 29 to 34, and then we have Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 12 through 18. Again, I'm reading from the New Living Translation. God gave Solomon, this is the first passage, 1 Kings 4, 29 to 34. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge, as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite and the sons of Mahal, Herman, Calcol, and Darda. His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. He composed some 3,000 proverbs and wrote 1,005 songs. He could speak with authority about all kinds of plants, from the great cedar of Lebanon to the tiny hyssop that grows from the cracks in a wall. He could also speak about animals, birds, small creatures, and fish. And kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon. That's our first Kings passage there. Now the passage in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 12 through 18. I, the teacher, was king of Israel and lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to search for understanding and to explore by wisdom everything being done under heaven. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun, and really, it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. What is wrong cannot be made right. What is missing cannot be recovered. I said to myself, look, I am wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all of this is like chasing the wind. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. To increase knowledge only increases sorrow. Wow. Talk about your depressing note to end on our Bible reading there. Our authors say this about in our devotion today. The beginning of Solomon's reign in Israel appeared to be what the world had been waiting for. Always make sure you pick out lines, especially appeared. Appeared to be what the world had been waiting for. He was trending as the wisest man around, yet by the end of his rule, though he had nearly gained the world, he had also nearly forfeited his soul. My people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge, God would later say through his prophet Hosea in Hosea 4:6. Not a lack of information, but a lack of transformation. Important thought. We don't lack for information, but we may lack from transformation. They didn't know the God who could straighten what was crooked. Western culture places a tremendously high value on knowledge. We give credibility to those who write books, have degrees, and sound like they know what they're talking about. This may be why we Westerners carry a sense of superiority toward those of non-Western culture and language. Yet the Lord looks upon the heart, and he invites us to see with his eyes. He wants to straighten us out. No matter how much we know. Matter of fact, you can listen to this on the site, but my message for Sunday was entitled WIDWJD. We're all familiar with WWJD, what would Jesus do? And we can know that. We can study the life of Jesus, as many have. We can see him in action in the Gospels doing the things he does. And we may know all of that, what he did. What would Jesus do? Well, there it is, black and white, or red and white, if you have a red letter edition Bible. And yet, knowing what he does and possibly what he would do, although you need to know him well enough to know that answer, would I do that? Would I do what Jesus did? And that's where the rubber meets the road. Knowledge is one thing. Wisdom on how to use it is altogether something else. And here was Solomon, the wisest man, so was said, the wisest man who ever lived, accumulated great treasure, was incredibly famous. People from every nation were being sent to find out his secret. And yet he squandered it all. He married pagan women, allowed them to bring their idols to Jerusalem, to sway his heart away from God. And so lots of knowledge, well, it might be great, but if you don't use it wisely, you're in trouble. Here's the prayer for today. Father, fearing you is the beginning of true knowledge. Yet too often I see information, not transformation, as the goal. Lord, I remind myself that your wisdom was fully on display in your Son, Jesus. Though he is foolishness to the world, he's wisdom to me. Just as the nations marveled at the wisdom of Solomon, I pray the nations would wonder at the wisdom of Christ. As I journey with him to the cross in this season, I long not simply to know about him, but to know him. Again, huge difference between knowing about and knowing. Lots of people and events for us to learn from in God's word. And Solomon is a big one because of all the potential that he had, all the potential that God gave him, all of the great purpose that God gave him to build that temple. He wouldn't let David do it because David was a man of war. And so it was up to Solomon, the son of an illicit affair, but whose wisdom was incredible, whose wealth was incredible, whose power was incredible. And yet, don't think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think, Paul would say. Just realize we all have flaws, and if we're not careful, we all squander the blessings that God has given to us. Blessings to you today.